and gave you all the pertinent information. So you have real world information.
Nope, you're good there, yeah.
How come this happened? How come that-
All right, we're at 5:30.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Welcome to the City of Santa Clara Planning Commission on today's date, April 13th. We're beginning at 5:30. With our opening ceremony today, we'll have Logan Blake with the Pledge of Allegiance and opening comments. Logan.
Please rise and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic. Nation.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for the opportunity we had to come to this plan commission meeting to discuss and plan for the needs of the city. We're grateful for the applications that are before us. We're grateful for the progress that our city continues to make and continues to improve and develop. We're grateful that we live in a vibrant community. We pray that thou bless us with thy spirit and always watch over us, that thou can help us to stay safe, to continue to progress and to continue to be a blessed community. And we're grateful for these things. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Logan. Here, do we have any communications and appearances today?
No.
None today? Good. We have a working agenda. We have no items on our working agenda, so no public hearings. With that, we'll move on to general business to discuss our recommendation to the city council to consider preliminary and final plat approval for the Silverado commercial subdivision. The property is located at the intersection of Pioneer Parkway and the future extension of Red Mountain Drive. Mr. Julian Stemmer is the applicant. Jim?
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the preliminary plat and final plat because it is a 4-lot commercial subdivision. I'm going to pull that up and then I will discuss the project. Thank you. So Julian represents Silverado LLC. They're looking to subdivide an existing meets and bounds property. It's known as parcel SC-6-2-9-43051212, described as 20.74 acres. The proposed commercial subdivision will include 4 lots. Lot 1 is 6.44 acres. Lot 2 is 5.22 acres. Lot 3 is 2.61 acres. And lot 4 is 5.45 acres. Lots 4 and 5. Let me blow this up a little bit so everyone can see it, hopefully. Sorry. And what I meant is lots 3 and 4 both have frontage on Pioneer Parkway. Lots 1 and 2 have frontage on Red Mountain Drive. Once it's completed, each of the proposed lots appears to be of sufficient size for the proposed commercial and residential uses. Now, ingress will be available to the lots from Pioneer Parkway, Red Mountain Drive, as well as Rachel Drive. In the case of lot 1, you can see lot 1 actually has a connection to Rachel Drive to the west right here. So currently, a medical office building is looking to locate on lot 4. This is a change from the last time the Planning Commission saw it when we were looking at the project plan, the rezoning, and the development agreement. The property, they're proposing to sell it to Intermountain Healthcare. Previously, this was going to be a pickleball facility and a sports-themed bar and grill on the property. We're being told by the applicant that that's no longer an option. The remaining property lots 1, 2, and 3 would be developed as previously discussed with the Planning Commission and City Council. A man cave or residential project is proposed for lot 1, multifamily apartment project proposed for lot 2, and then commercial retail pads along lot 3 in the frontage of Pioneer Parkway as well as Red Mountain. The applicant is aware that they will be required to submit an updated project plan, the rezoning, and the general plan amendment, because tonight the only thing we're looking at is a legal subdivision of property into 4 lots. Neighborhood response, public notices are not required for a subdivision. However, the Peace Planning Commission agenda has been posted in multiple locations as per state code. We've not received any comments. The city reviewing departments have provided their recommendations, very typical for this. Later on at the point when a site is ready to be developed and built on, geotechnical reports will be required. The power department wants all those public utility easements shown. Public Works want those shown as well, and a plat will be recorded at the time that they're getting ready to record it, subdivision. Planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for both preliminary and final plat approval for the Silverado Commercial Subdivision, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. Now, we do have a few people here for this item tonight. So the applicant representing Silverado LLC, Julian Steamer, is here. Jared Bates is here, and I believe we have Alan Hall virtually from a far remote, cold and snowy Idaho. Well, not snowy today at least, but I'll turn the time over to you, Chair Hendrickson. Back to you.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Mr. Stemmer, have you got anything else to add to these comments, sir?
No, not really. Jim did a really good job summarizing it. I think I can just give a little bit more insight why we're doing this like amendment from our original plan, if that's of any interest to you. We were very excited about our plan that was approved by Planning Commission. We just had trouble going through the next step with City Council. We just couldn't get the support that we needed. It looked like we couldn't get that support mainly because of the pickleball facility. And so after many meetings with the neighborhood and then also with City Council members, we decided to see if there's any interest that we can get for this parcel. And we working on getting the support that we need for the rest of the project. And we feel like Lot 4 and having an IHC Instacare on there is gonna be good for the community as well. So
have they given you any kind of a forecasted date to begin construction once they make purchase of it, or?
The purchase is going to be within 60 days of this subdivision being done. Is what we're forecasting as of right now.
Great.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Questions from the commission for Mr. Stemmer?
You guys building the road or just bonding for that Red Mountain Drive extension?
As far as my knowledge goes, as we will build the road. Now that IHC has Lot 4, we'll have to obviously have talks with them what our portion is or how that is all going to be divided.
And I think Jared Bates could speak to that issue as
Jared.
well. He
Jared?
raised his hand. There's been discussion back and forth on that because Black Desert is in the works as well. So
Right.
turn it over to Jared.
Yeah, so the latest that I'm aware of is we're working on the development agreement and getting ready to submit the preliminary plat for the Black Desert agreement. And then as part of that project will include basically the eastern portion of Red Mountain Road. We figured it's 3/4 of the asphalt and the bridge up to there. So I'm not sure how these guys will try to cost share or whatever, but whoever's first will build it basically. Is where we're at.
They have to do it based on the
Yeah,
on the
so we're showing the construction of the road as part of our project.
part of your, okay. Anything else, Logan? Curtis? Mr. Call, questions?
No, not for me.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for your answers, Jared. I'm sorry not to see the pickleball personally, but things happen and they happen for a reason. And quite frankly, having an Instacare might be a great addition to our community. So thank you. Anything else? Do we have a motion from the commission?
I had a question, Jim, as far as that bridge right there, that's Tuacahn Wash, right? Yeah, the Tuacahn Wash.
Yeah.
Is that capable of expand? Can we get 2 lanes and a turning lane or 3 lanes going across that? Or is there any future that will widen that?
I don't think so because it's shown on our roads master plan as a 66-foot right of way. It's either 66 or 60, right, Dustin? Our public works director is here tonight.
66, correct?
Yeah.
So we're
So-
pretty much looking for the future, a 2-lane road.
With
from
the
St.
center
George.
turn lane to get in and out of the businesses.
And that won't happen till you get past the bridge, right? Because you don't really need a turn lane prior to that. Clear back to St. George. Will it go that whole way?
You mean to Pioneer Park?
Pioneer, yeah, Pioneer.
But see, that feeds
You're
in,
talking
but
about
that feeds into
Culver
that
on
top
Pioneer.
road.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Pioneer culvert right there that's going,
It's just east of.
the Tuacahn goes underneath Pioneer.
Okay,
Okay.
because that's gonna be a heavy congestion. That's a heavy congestion point now without the road there. So I see what you're at.
Yeah, it's good to know that that is in the future. I know it may not be a little while, but that would really help. And I know a lot of the residents, as we approve and or debate some of this stuff, they're considered about traffic, but if we can, that's
Okay.
awesome.
If I could just ask a question, piggybacking on that, what about the traffic light right there at Red Mountain?
So it's part of the actual development agreement that's being done.
Right, and then it,
I remember that from our Black Desert presentation.
well, we get to a point where there has to be a warrant or, they'll determine when the traffic signal is needed to go there. So
And is that based on the construction or is that based on the traffic flow or when does that happen? Okay.
So it becomes a warranted requirement. Okay. Good question, because
Thank
we
you.
have talked about that quite a
Yeah.
bit. Okay. Anything else from the commission? I have a motion from the commission.
I move we recommend to city council to consider the preliminary and final plat approval for Silverado Commercial Subdivision. Located on the Pioneer Parkway in the future extension of Red Mountain Drive, subject to the conditions as stated by staff.
I'll second that. I have a motion from Logan and a second from Mark for approval, recommended approval to the city council of this subdivision as shown. Vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, if any? That carries, that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're actually working on that new Washington Fields Instacare. And then they're gonna build another one in Washington over on the close proximity to that new exit that's being done. And then this one came out of the woodwork, like it's not any of our planning meetings that we've had with them in the last year. So this is gonna be a real, I think it's a great thing for our community.
Yeah.
All righty, moving along. Let's see here. Back to our agenda. And it would help if I didn't push the wrong button. We have a recommendation to the city council to consider final plat approval for Santa Clara Valley Homes. The property is located at approximately 1402 Victor Street. Mr. Jim Entz is the applicant. Jim?
thanks, Chair Hendrickson. So this is a project that's been in the works for a little bit of time. Mr. Entz is requesting that final plat approval. The project includes 8 townhome units, 3 twin homes and 2 single-family units on 0.89 acres. This equates to a density of 9 units per acre. Townhomes will be located on site with common area open space, project landscaping, a private driveway, and 9 guest parking spaces. Now, this subject property was rezoned from R110 single-family residential to the planned development residential PDR zone on March 22nd of 2017. Additionally, the general plan map was updated from historic low district residential to historic medium district residential in support of the project. I've attached in your packet a copy of City Ordinance 2017-03, which goes through that entitlement. The Planning Commission reviewed a preliminary plat on June 20th of 2017 and recommended approval to the City Council. The City Council approved the preliminary plat on June 28th of 2017. On August 22nd of 2018, the City Council approved a 3.5-year time extension for the preliminary plat as the applicant left the country to serve a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Upon coming home in late 2021, a second extension of time was requested and granted by the City Council on January 22nd, 2022, allowing for an additional 18-month period. I believe the minutes on that are attached to your packet as well. I remember it was the first week or two I started, Mr. Entz came in to visit with me and he had come back from his service mission and we had talked about the market and how busy everything was and how hard it was to find folks to do work for him at that time. I asked him if he was part of Entz Homes because I did not know, and he'll probably recommend that, remember this. No, I'm just a poor dentist. Well, you know, that doesn't calculate for me, but I know he's an Entz, but not part of Entz Homes. Anyways, so the ingress and egress to the site will be provided from Victor Street. The extension of a private driveway into the interior of the site. And you can see that on the map here. This is the private drive coming off of Victor Street, which is a public street. And now we'll be getting a cul-de-sac here. So a more permanent turnaround rather than just a dead end. And then access into the site will be provided via a 26-foot private driveway and then parking spaces. Also, as you can see, the units 1 and 2 actually have driveway access off of Victor Street, with the other units having access off the interior. Well, I'm sorry, 1 and 2 and 6 and 7 both have access off of Victor Street. They're required to have a minimum driveway depth of 20 feet. I believe drawings show them to be approximately 22 to 23 feet. And then you can see the other units have that driveway depth of a minimum 20 feet, access via off the interior street system. Now, the city council will be required to hold a public hearing on a portion of Victor Street, as a portion of it is set to be vacated. That is a public hearing and a decision to be made by the city council as per state code. It's not a planning commission decision. That will go to the city council on April 26th, and we'll be noticing that up next Monday to meet the state code requirements. So a portion of Victor Street, which was currently in the master plan or streets plan at a 66-foot right of way, it will go to a 45-foot right of way, which will include, you know, the 30 feet of oil, the curb and gutter, and the 5-foot park strip on each side. And then this cul-de-sac will meet our standard with a radius of 50 feet. Some items I'd like to discuss for the final plat. We've talked about the public street and dedication, which will be required. We've talked about the private driveway, the 26-foot driveway, and the guest parking spaces. We've talked about the street vacation. I kind of ad-libbed that, but that's item number 3 here. Building setbacks and height. So they are required to meet the building setback requirements of the planned development residential zone. That's a 20-foot front yard, 10-foot side yards, and 10-foot rear yard minimum. As far as the colors and materials, this project was reviewed by the Heritage Commission because it's in our historic district overlay area. And so the Heritage Commission reviewed these building elevations back in January of 2017 and made a recommendation to the Planning Commission and City Council to approve the building elevations and materials. These elevations, let's see, I can make them a little larger. Sorry about that. Can everybody see them now? They include a gray lap siding or hardy board, stucco red brick and white trim, also an upstairs balcony with white railing and columns, and a gabled roof to provide architectural interest. So you've got this front elevation here, another elevation that's similar, a side elevation where you're starting to see the stucco material. You've got that break. And then a rear elevation, which is predominantly stucco, but you've got a patio with a trellis in the back as well. And so that is the elevation and building materials that have been previously approved. The common landscape and open space, they're proposing 45 feet, 40% of total lot area is common landscape and open space. Also, they will be required to comply with City Ordinance 2022-05, the Water Efficiency and Conservation Ordinance, because it's being developed now in 2023. Culinary water availability is a key. I'm going to go down through here and try to find the landscape plan so you can see it.
Page 22.
It's page 22.
Yes,
Okay.
22 and 23.
Yeah, and they've done a good job here. The individual that's put this plan together has been doing multiple projects in the city as of late. I'm going to minimize this. And you can see that the sod areas or lawn areas are limited, a lot of trees with a drip system, a xeriscape type of design. The landscape plan looks to meet ordinance and be well done. They will have to, though, get approval for water from the Washington County Water Conservancy District. That's either obtaining a will serve letter or other verified documentation. And then secondary water is available, so the applicant will be required to connect and install the secondary water line for the outdoor water use. I wanted to talk about a storm drain easement adjacent to Unit 7. That's scheduled to be vacated. And you can see it right here, storm drain easement showing right here along that south property line for Unit 7. So that's another item the city council will take care of, the abandonment of that storm drain easement. And then dust control is always a concern for us. And so the applicant will be required to submit a dust control plan prior to final plat recordation. Precautionary measures are needed to protect the general health, safety, and welfare of residents living in the vicinity. So we are in a residential neighborhood all the way around. Sure, as we work our way towards Santa Clara, there's more business type use, but we need to make sure, especially in the summer months when those south winds kick up, and it can be fall as well, that we're protecting our existing residents. Again, public notices aren't required for a subdivision plat. The planning agenda has been posted as per state code in multiple places. Our reviewing departments have given this application a look, and we have our recommendations, which are similar to other ones we have received for similar subdivisions. Each residential building or unit will be required to submit a geotechnical report. Police and fire, the fire and emergency vehicle access is required and has been reviewed and approved by our fire marshal. In this case, as far as the length of the driveway goes, and they're actually putting a fire hydrant down at the end of the private driveway. Public utility easements are required on the final plat by both the power department and public works, and that we have a final Mylar with signature plats, with signatures blocks for the plat. We meet all state code requirements for a subdivision of property. At this time, planning staff recommends that the planning commission forward a positive recommendation to the city council for final plat approval for the Santa Clara Valley home, subject to the conditions in the staff report. We have a total of 12 of those. I know Mr. Jim Entz is here, Jared Bates is here, as well as Alan Hall is on the call. At this point, I'll turn the time back to you, Chair Hendrickson.
Thanks, Jim. I'm sure we have some questions. There's a couple of questions. When I walk the project, the property, there's a fire hydrant at the end of that. I'm guessing that's incorporated, to remain where it's located, be incorporated into the circle. Is that correct? There's a fire hydrant at the end of that street right now that exists.
Yeah, it's being relocated a little bit to the east.
Subdivision. Okay. And then my other question was answered about the drain easement that's there. What about the small ditch that's right there on the north side of the property, Jim? It's just straight for that lot, correct? Or the lot that's owned by the Ortons, right? North Unity. Yeah. Those are my three questions that I had about the project. Commission?
No, I just had a question about the easement, but you said it's getting vacated, so that's the only thing. And there, one of the comments says secondary irrigation. Isn't there already, that's already available, isn't it? Down here with the farm, with it being a farm? So
Would that tie into the street, Dustin? Yeah.
So that should be fairly easy to accomplish, so.
Consistent to that area. Yeah. Okay,
I don't really have anything
great.
else.
Mark?
Mr. Entz, do you have any questions or problems with any of those 12 conditions? Okay.
That's it. Okay. I mean, my questions were answered. Those are the things that I found when I went to the site today and walked it and made sure I understood the layout. Anything from the commission that needs to be noted at this time?
No.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
I
can
can
make a
motion to send the final plat for Santa Clara Valley Homes to the city council with a recommendation for approval, subject to the staff's 12 conditions that we've just discussed.
Thank you, Curtis. Second,
I'll second that.
we have the motion from Curtis for approval and a recommendation of approval and second from Mr. Weston. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, if any, because I didn't hear any. That's it. We carry. Thank you for being here, gentlemen. Okay. Moving on to item B, Rylu's covered outdoor parking or dining or outdoor parking. That's just standard. Trying to get fired. You can tell. Located at 2862 Santa Clara Drive, Tyler Gardner applicant. I went through this one too. So if you want to come forward, Mr. Gardner, we can look at this and see if we have any questions from the commission. Is there anything we special need to do on this approval, Jim?
No, it's a fun one. We know Rilo's Bistro is in the community. It's it's a reuse of an existing home that was once converted at some point in time converted to a commercial use. It's the old John and Emma Graff home. Our Heritage Commission reviewed it and recommended approval to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is the approval body for this particular application. And Chapter 17.74 refers to Chapter 17.66. Myself and other city staff and legal counsel have determined that the proposed application will create a nice outdoor space for patrons and promote more walkability in our downtown area. And that provision allows the setback of the structure, in this case, covered outdoor dining, similar to Kairos on the corner of Tabernacle and Main. If you've been there, complies with the code, and we'd recommend approval.
Thank you, Jim. Is there anything information wise you want to add to your detail or anything like that?
Not necessarily. We're just trying to create, better use for that area during the summer months and make kind of a usable.
It's hard to get a reservation there, so it's good to have more seating.
Good. Yep. So that's their plan.
Yeah. Questions from the commission here about the drawings or the details? I had the opportunity to sit under that one and it's quite pleasant.
Yeah. No, they give you a little bit of shade and cool you off a little.
This is my wife's new favorite place. I've been there 3 out of the last 4 Saturdays. I'm hoping we go somewhere else this Saturday. I like it. I mean, Kairos is good. Maybe, we'll try another place. It's Mediterranean. She says it has more taste than Aubergine Kitchen. So we've gone here.
More than Aubergine, huh?
Yeah. So I'm excited to try Rylu's, but I'll probably wait for the outdoor covered dining this summer.
You're missing something if you haven't been to Rylu's yet. I'd highly recommend it. I don't have anything, commission, anything particular for Mr. Gardner. Okay, with that, thank you for your time. We've been approved by the Heritage Commission. Those are my questions. So
yes.
We're good there. Just has to obtain a building permit, typical with everything else.
Right.
Okay.
The items, the 5 conditions and the recommendation on March 23rd of 2023 to Heritage. So by the Heritage Commission.
Commission members, I'll entertain a motion.
I recommend that we approve the covered outdoor dining located at 2862 Santa Clara Drive for Rylu's Bistro, with the 5 conditions as written herein.
Thank you, Mark.
I can second that.
We have a motion from Mark to approve and a second from Curtis to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any. Carries. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
You'll just work with Cody on that permit now. Thank you. Yep.
All right. Dustin, we're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you. Good evening. Mayor Rosenberg has asked me to inform you of the proposed drought contingency plan that will be adopted by cities as part of the Regional Water Supply Agreement Amendment. To prepare for emergency drought conditions, the Washington County Water Conservancy District developed this drought contingency plan with funding from the United States Department of the Interior, Bureau of Reclamation. The plan was developed in partnership with the Regional Water Supply Agreement members to provide a collaborative system for prioritizing drinking water under circumstances of diminishing water supply. The plan was developed using a working framework approved by the Bureau of Reclamation as a requirement of the funding agreement. This framework includes an overview of the steps involved, as well as the schedule for development and feedback on key elements, such as mitigation measures. The district and the members of its water service area have invested heavily in conservation measures, such as a rebate and incentive program to reduce water demand, successfully reducing per capita usage by more than 30% from the year 2000. Drought monitoring. The district developed a drought monitoring tool for identifying drought, quantifying the drought conditions, and assessing its severity. Drought stages. The 5 drought stages range from 0, normal condition, to 4, extreme drought. Action plans. Action plans are tailored towards 3 response groups: the residential, public at large, community, municipal partners, and the water provider, the district. Vulnerability assessment. The vulnerability assessment will identify areas of vulnerability in existing facility system capabilities and water practices of the district and its customers. Communication plans and maintenance and update schedule. The task force will meet monthly to review the technical information and make recommendations to the Washington County Water Conservancy District Board, who decide whether to announce a drought stage change. The district will coordinate with its municipal partners to provide information to the public via websites, social media, newsletters. As necessary, public outreach will extend to press announcements, advertising signage, and enhanced collaboration. The district will evaluate and update the plan every 5 years. The drought stages are as follows. Stage 0. Stage 0 occurs when the water supply necessary to meet current demands is also adequate to maintain or increase storage supplies. Stage 1. We are currently in a stage 1. Stage 1 describes meteorological conditions when water demands tap into stored supplies faster than they can be replenished. When stored supplies are dropping, additional actions will need to be taken in order to slow that drawdown and bring the demand back in line with sustainable supplies. Stage 2, concern. Stage 2 is used when the water supply has already been diminished, reservoir levels are low, and the conditions have failed to replenish the supply. In this stage, response becomes more intrusive and aggressive to reduce demands even further and hold on to what water is available in case the dry conditions can persist. Stage 3, alarm. Stage 3 will be used.
Dustin, can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
Where in the report are you getting this verbiage from?
I am on page 51.
Page 51. Okay.
Okay.
Stage 3 will be used when the available water supply has deteriorated significantly and is approaching critical levels. At this stage, water will begin to be rationed and redistributed to maintain life-sustaining uses. Stage 4, crisis, extreme drought. Stage 4 is the most extreme stage of the drought contingency plan. It will come into effect when storage supplies have been depleted, and the region will be required to limit use to only what becomes available in each season. All non-essential water use will be terminated at this point. When in this stage, even storage infrastructure will not be able to capture and store what precipitation may fall. All efforts to reduce consumption demand prior to reaching this stage should be aggressively employed. Because of existing reservoirs and infrastructure, a period of extreme drought as defined has yet to occur within the county's recent history. Jim, if you'll go to the chart, forget what page it's on.
The hydrograph chart.
Yeah. It is 54.
Is it this one?
No, next one.
Okay.
Your pages are different than mine.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I think it's down quite a ways.
Okay.
Page 54 of the actual AES document. It's
Right
page
there,
60.
right there.
This one?
60, yeah.
No, go a little more.
Up or down? Sorry.
Page 50 of that and page.
There you go, right
57
there.
Years.
60? Okay.
So this chart in front of you shows the 4 stages, or 5, I'm sorry, and what's required of residents, the local municipality, and the district. I just want to run through a few of those and make you aware of them. So in stage 1, caution, we're asking residents to reduce irrigation frequency and or duration. Go to stage 2, We're asking them to follow mandatory irrigation schedules, irrigate only trees and shrubs as recommended. Stage 3, grass irrigation prohibited. Irrigation of trees and shrubs allowed via drip irrigation by hand or watering. Stage 4, catastrophic, no outdoor water use. If you jump over to what we're asking the cities, or they're going to be asking the cities to do, Stage 1, we'll have to reduce irrigation of public facilities by 20%.
Bless you.
Stage 2, reduce irrigation of public facilities by 40%. Restrict construction water use, which is a big one. Raise tiered water rates. The reason for that is we're asking residents to reduce their water by 40%. We're going to lose revenue. Therefore, we need a higher water rate so that we can still pay our bills. Stage 3, prohibit irrigation of non-functional grass. Implement enforcement measures for failure to comply with conservation measures. Institute a temporary building moratorium.
What is functional and non-functional grass?
Functional is grass that's used, say, a football field or a baseball field. Non-functional is grass that doesn't even get walked on.
Thank you.
Like all the grass at the Boulevard exit.
So the stage 3 in crisis for municipality by instituting a temporary building moratorium is a pretty serious one. There's been a lot of discussion on that. This plan has not been adopted yet. I could foresee that once it's ready to be adopted, there may be some changes there.
So stage 3 was fairly significant depletion of reservoirs and that sort of thing and terrible forecast, right?
Mm-hmm. Then stage 4, catastrophic for the cities. It's eliminate all outdoor irrigation. Aggressive enforcement, including water shutoffs. Now, if you jump over to the district, what they're going to have to implement in stage 1, focus water management to maintain reservoir and aquifer levels, increase water use education through smart comparative billing. Stage 2, begin voluntary transfers of irrigation water to potable use. Stage 3, reduce water deliveries by population, not limited by delivery contract. And stage 4, limit contract water deliveries. Pretty serious.
So that means that basically you'll have, every community has like a master meter from the region and they're gonna, once you hit your threshold, they're just gonna shut you off basically.
Correct. That's my presentation for night, but if you
As I was reading through this, it seems like we on the city level or, staff, we know about all these things once they're passed. How do they get the water to the end of the row? As far as how do you get this in front of the citizens? Is this something you put in a newsletter saying, listen, this is where we are, we're stage
it's going to
3?
be on the TV, it's going to be on the radio, it's going to be on Facebook, Instagram.
It just seems like every time something comes out, conservation or be whatever it is, only the people that are trying to implement it know about it, and everybody that could implement it just never seems to get there. So
Yeah, I agree.
and I didn't see that inside of here that there was a distribution, a method to. I thought as I would go through, I thought I'd find a method to distribute the
It's
information
actually right at the beginning and it's just 3 items. And it doesn't give specific to
on how to do it.
Instagram but I mean, it covers the 3 bases.
Well, the district has lots of ads on the radio if you pay attention.
Yeah.
We keep things on our website too, all the time about conservation and when you
Mark
start
Westwood
watering.
just had the perfect solution.
You just hand it out with swig cups and the county would be done.
Well, we're supposed to,
I'll write that down.
I think you're onto something.
yeah,
And the water.
yeah, it does say this, to encourage restaurants to serve
it-
water when they request, so.
It was interesting. We got this packet. And I just happened to be in meetings at the water district that, and there was some discussions going on in one of the conference rooms about this very thing.
Yeah, they're getting ready to
Really
meet with
digging
this.
into it deep.
The TAC committee is the ones that created this. I'm on that. Now it's going to go to the city managers. We'll get their input and then next to mayor and council.
Right.
So that's where we're at.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, definitely.
When you talk about tiered water rates, is it going to get, let's not use the word abusive, but is it going to get drastic?
Yeah, I've got them. I can show you.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh,
It
That would be
it has to be. Otherwise,
It's the only way you're gonna get people to stop using.
yeah,
I think the non-functional grass should get moved up, in my opinion. I mean, if homeowners can't water it, what do we need the non-functional grass for, really? That was one of the things I looked at when I was, people were talking about a couple years ago to like limit your water grass, and I would drive down the boulevard and they were still watering that pristine grass right there. I was like, well, if they're still watering that.
Yeah.
I was also surprised on pools that it didn't mention anything on pools because, pools have a high evaporation rate and then you're out swimming in them and it all goes down the ditch or in the landscaping because
That would depend if they're covered or not.
it surprises me that pools, especially as you get to a stage 3 or stage 4, that they wouldn't, but I guess that's.
What
one of those
about,
areas
car-
they don't-
what about car washes?
Well, it did say car washes. It
think it
talked
did.
about
Yeah,
commercial.
yeah,
They didn't want you to wash it in your driveway, but the commercial
Right.
ones that have the
which is
recirculation.
still 30 to 35 gallons per car.
Per car,
The
yeah.
number is, and on a Saturday, we know how many cars are.
Yeah.
So that's something that would probably be cut. So,
I'd be interested to see the metering sort of information when you get to these higher stages, like let your community know, like, hey, we're getting close to our threshold getting cut off, that sort of thing.
luckily, we have a lot of our own water, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's another thing that I think,
So they're only talking about policing regional district water, not the well water that the community or whatever else the community is.
Well, we would police our well water
I was
too.
gonna say, because we own those rights, you're
Yeah.
gonna police it similar to this.
Uh-huh.
Making the assumption, I shouldn't assume, I'm making that assumption.
Yeah, we just don't have the risk of running out of water because we rely so small on the district water. 11% is all we used last year of district water.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And we're doing a groundwater study right now to
Does
drill
the-
another
does
well,
this-
so.
Right.
Does the state look at groundwater, don't they look at groundwater and start reallocating that kind of stuff as far as aquifers?
You don't use it, but you lose it.
Well, yeah, but
Luckily, we have water rights we're not using. That's why we want to get another well. So we're very
So that's what's
fortunate.
pushing that type of
Mhm.
demand with the
Yeah.
engineer.
I didn't know that number low. That's really low.
Yeah.
11%, because Ivans is 100% conservancy, right?
I was going to replace my grass, but now I'll just plant more, I guess.
It's the opposite of what you're supposed to do. They'll give you a rebate right now to do it, $3 a square foot.
If my wife would let me, my grass would be gone.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of people around town doing it. I've been surprised.
You get 1,000 square feet of lawn, that's it.
Maybe when my grandkids get older, she'll let me do that. They have grass in their house on the street. I should just use that. Okay, so the 11% thing was intriguing to me. I knew it was, we had our own water use. So then when you talk about our own well, is that why we would build out to the old garbage dump, the reservoir there, because we need a place to store that water? If we.
No, we have enough storage already. We
can
store in
manage it.
tanks, not reservoirs. That's for secondary water,
So
irrigation.
that's secondary irrigation.
Yeah.
that's not just us, that's St. George's building that
Mhm.
partly, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mostly.
That's actually going to be reuse. They're going to pump it full of reuse during.
Oh,
the
that's
winter.
right.
Oh.
The pipeline's gonna
Yeah.
come back. That's
Yeah.
right. I want to learn more about secondary use. I'll get with.
Let's talk anytime you want.
I'll call you and I really would. I'd like to learn more about it. Mostly because I'm gonna inherit some stuff and I want to make sure I understand what's gonna go and
Mhm.
how that's gonna go. Okay.
Any
That
other
was
questions?
interesting. We got this packet and I was there and this was on the screen and that called for true. It was like,
I remember reading somewhere in here, they were talking about implementing more meters on secondary use.
You can actually get a grant right now to meter your secondary water lines.
So are they gonna start? I hear a lot of saw from my dad about, he lives in Ivans, about the
Mhm.
second.
I know your dad.
Irrigation water out there.
Yeah.
Are they gonna start forcing some of these canal companies, secondary water users to actually meter their systems?
That went in with the water efficient landscape ordinance. Everybody's supposed to be doing it and not everybody's complying. We always have been here.
Right. Yeah, I know that St. Clair has, but I haven't talked to him for a minute, but he's always said that they don't meter very well out in
Yeah.
Ivans on their like farms and stuff.
what's the penalty? I mean, if you're not doing it, what can they do to require you to do that?
If you're part of the
Install it
regional,
for you and then. save
if
you a
you're
bill
part of the
for it?
regional water supply agreement, you're violating it.
Yeah,
And then they can
Yeah.
take away your water.
right.
They don't. They haven't
Yeah.
before, but that's a threat that they could do.
So like, for instance, people that have a share on the canal companies get a certain amount of water per year based on the reservoir,
Correct.
how much Gunlock's reservoir. And in past, if you went over your share of water, your allotment, because they have the meters, they know how much you've used and you pay the price to pump back from the reuse center to use. You can do that as an option or just stop using your water. But some instances, not each individual has a meter for their spot. The whole system's metered, but not each individual. So it's hard to say who's overusing. But I know Santa Clara is really good because each person has an individual meter. But I was just wondering if they were going to,
Somebody had some forethought.
if they were going to put more, force on some of the canal companies to make individuals meter each individual as opposed to just the whole system. But
This has been really interesting because you hear about it. We've had our stuff that we passed here as far as it goes, and our real job is planning and understanding what's there for the future.
Yeah.
And hearing that 11% public clamor, guys. That's my new key word, public clamor. Now I have an answer for.
We talked about that Friday.
Okay, very cool. Thank you
Okay,
for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right. Minutes. We have our minutes to approve.
I do have an item. It
You have an
kind of
item?
snuck on that page is item B, general plan amendments on the second page. Of the
Oh, yes.
agenda.
Yes.
So just briefly, the planning commission has probably recognized recently, and the council has, we've had a lot of general plan amendments coming before us. And so I was asked the question by the mayor and council, and it was also asked to Matt Entz. Is that common that you just consider that many general plan amendments? And we've had quite a few recently in support of zone changes. In the case of, as you know, we had the Bart Smith one that's come twice through the system now, and we've had others. We've had quite a few others. So I was asked to call around and talk to some of the other communities to see how they process. I've seen places that only process general plan amendments once a year. I've worked for an entity that processed general plan amendments twice a year. And I've worked for places that process them on a quarterly basis. And so we were taking a look at that. We talked to the city of St. George. Matt's done some work there as well. And they process general plan amendments on a quarterly basis. And so how that would work is the first meeting in January each year, the first meeting in April each year, the first meeting in July each year, and the first meeting in October each year is when we would process general plan amendments. And once the word gets out, everybody's pretty cool about that. If there's some unique set of circumstances and I'm told to do so by the elected officials and the mayor or the city attorney, we'll take a look at it. Otherwise, we're going to just start processing these on a quarterly basis. And it makes sense because we don't need to look at general plan amendments that often. We've had a few lately. We had that Andy Bentley situation with Tuacahn Wash. We've gone through two sets of them for Bart Smith. And there's been others, there's been quite a few in the last several months. And that's why I was asked the question, please look at this. Let's do what some of the other entities are doing. And let's limit these. And I think quarterly is fair. Some quarters we may have none. Other quarters we might bring a couple of them to you,
So
depending on the
you have a
situation.
public hearing, everything.
so you're saying the city council's wanting to limit the number, like the time.
And the mayor. That's where they would like it to be done on a quarterly basis, similar to St. George and other communities. A lot of cities only consider them up north twice a year. And we've seen others once a year is not enough. Twice a year, I don't necessarily agree with. I think quarterly is pretty good, and Matt's agreeable to that as well. So
I would be interested to know if those other communities up north, how much weight they give to their general plan if they're only doing it twice a year. Like, do they have to make it match the zoning, or is it more of like I said, the advisory document where it's flexible as if it matches perfectly?
And I think and we can do that. That's benchmarking and could take quite a bit of time. Yeah.
Yeah, because
To me, it seems better because you get a lot of heat from the public when you separate the general plan so much from the zoning. Like, it seems better when you can bring them in concurrently. And that, to me, that creates a problem when it's only once every quarter, sort of thing. It causes.
Well, but we've received some pushback from that recently, and the direction I have been given by the mayor and the elected officials are that we will process the general plan before we process a rezoning of property. We're going to split them rather than do them concurrently. That's the direction I've been given.
if I may. Within the last year, right before you came in, there was a special meeting called with us and the planning commission, and the planning commission sat up
And the
here.
council.
The city council, sorry. We sat down there and they told us to stop trying to enforce the general plan because it was an unenforceable document.
Okay. Okay.
And because we tried to uphold the general plan
Yes.
and they told us to stop it.
Okay.
And so this is like a complete 180 that they're showing up and now saying that we have to do it because we were told, stop.
Yeah, well, and it
Probably the
comes,
South Hill stuff.
it comes back to the should and shall.
Yes.
And although I wasn't present for that meeting, I went back and read those minutes and that's something concerning to me, especially, and I know we can't discuss what took place last night, but
I understand that the plans change, right? And the city has to evolve and progress, right?
But that's the question. Does staff and the city council is everyone comfortable with the general plan? It was done a dozen or so years ago. Do we need to look at the general plan and?
longer than that now.
Yeah, at that meeting, they said,
So that,
this is
It
how
was-
we should redo it.
Our current general plan was adopted in 2014.
Yeah.
That's what it says on it. And there
So
were
you
some
look-
map amendments in 17. That's a discussion that is occurring with the mayor and council. Generally, when a general plan is done, you have a consultant come in and lead that effort and do that work. I don't have the bandwidth to do it on my own because I'm doing all the other daily tasks. I would be part of that team supporting our consultant and want to be involved in the general plan to keep costs down. But they have to designate or allocate funds to having our general plan done. It's not something where you have a volunteer do it, or sometimes I have seen staff do general plans, but it's a bigger staff, where you have a long range planner that's all they do. They do the long range planning for the city and the other planners do the current planning. You bring a consultant in. We're certainly not going to pay the consultant the big bucks to do such a plan, but they have been discussing whether there's budget to start paying to look at redoing the general plan. It's generally needs to be done every 5 to 10 years. For a community that's really growing, it should be done every 5 years. In our case, now is probably the time pretty soon, 2023, 2024. We've talked about this. I'm still waiting to get further direction on that. I've not received an answer yet. So.
Well, so then that brings me to ask the question, do we not need to just focus, take the general plan as it is and focus on key elements, or focus on, as a planning commission, one of the things that I've recently learned and,
Right.
is that it's our job to take that and learn, what needs, these are the areas that we're having concerns from the public, or these are the areas that we see issues with it. Let's fix just those areas.
Yeah. And that's a possibility. And we've talked about that, a special area plan or a certain focused in a certain neighborhood or area. It could be the South Hills. It could be the Heights. I'm not sure. But really what we're looking at here is just kind of a quick fix. All it would entail, and I can give you a reference, chapter or title 10-1-8 over in St. George says changes and amendments. It just says all zoning maps, land use maps, and regulations in the general plan may be amended from time to time by the city council. All proposed amendments shall be submitted first to the planning commission for consideration at a public hearing, The city council shall consider the recommendation at a public meeting and make a final determination to adopt, modify, or reject the proposed amendment. And so we would just add on to that saying general plan amendments will be considered on a quarterly basis by the city. So it's just plugging something into chapter 1718 because we don't currently have it. There's a lot here. I recognize that. And there's a history and discussions that have occurred that I wasn't privy to. So I will take your comments back to the mayor and the city attorney and others when I have a chance to meet with them next week. And thank you for letting me know that this was discussed previously. I'll probably bring up the general plan again, which I want some information on, but I just haven't been given that direction yet on as to whether or not it's going to be this budget cycle or next budget cycle, but it is something that has been discussed. So
Just so I'm clear, are they're trying to get rid of doing a general, I guess it was that way with, so maybe I'm wrong about this, but that is one, sorry, the Split Rock, Bart Smith's project, the general plan was separated, the separate meeting.
it was, so originally that came in and they were together. We separated the second round of that, but there was a lot of pushback to the mayor and council and others on that project because of what is involved and entailed to do a general plan amendment and a rezoning of property because we were doing them concurrently. The PDR requires all that additional detail, all those drawings, all that information like Clayton Levin's going through right now. And so he said, why didn't you just take a general plan? Why didn't you just tell me if this was acceptable or not? You could have just gone through the general plan public hearing, given me, it's either warm or it's cold. And then I would have decided where to go from there. That's here nor there. I don't know, but he felt that, $75,000 later, he was pretty upset.
Bart?
Yes. So that's all I can say. That's what was reported back to the mayor and council. So now I've been tasked to separate these processes and we will do a general plan to get a feel for whether or not that use could be allowed. And then they can make the decision to go to the project plan with all the engineering, the architectural drawings, which is part of the rezoning. That's their entitlement, which is what Clayton Levitt's doing right now. That's the process he's in.
Interesting to me that it's now becoming a discussion item when we've been given other instruction.
Yeah.
Previously. Yeah.
But if somebody,
Yeah.
what I want to know is somebody, like I get that instance, but if somebody was coming in with just your blanket R16 that didn't require all that upfront expenditure, could they combine them in the same meeting?
I can't answer that. It's going to be case by case. The direction I've been giving so far is not, what we just did one. We just did Bart Smith's.
Right.
And so we were told to separate and he agreed to that. So we did the general plan amendment first to support the R16 zone to go to medium density residential 1 month. And then this next month, we came back with the rezoning to R16 and he got that approval just last night. So it took 2 months because 1 month was the general plan. The second month was the rezoning to R16. Now Jared Bates was here. They can submit their preliminary plat if they want to do the subdivision for R16 that we're ready to go. But we did separate that one. That was the direction that was given and we did it, but we did it in a timely manner. That's part of the reason meeting twice a month as well. So we can get people on the agenda and get things done. Speaking of which, in 2 weeks, I probably have 5 or 6 items that are going to come to you. There's quite a few things in the works right now. So.
I was saying it seems nice to be able to have the option to combine the two because there's a lot of fear built into a general plan where like the range of the density is high and people feel like it's entitling them to, the community will feel like it's entitling them to like developer to come back in with the high end of the range where it is nice. I know Ivans is one of the ones that will do them all the time together so that you have your land use plan that they call it mixed with your zoning and it's met at the same time.
Maybe Ivans does. I've worked for communities that do separate them.
Yeah,
the general plan amendment is one thing, the rezoning, and St. George does as well.
St.
The
George
rezoning is
separates,
another.
that's from in my experiences, you get a lot of the public and will get scared by the range and in the designation and
By having them separate.
yeah, because if your intent really is to bring in I don't know, a half acre lot, but you need LDR for that, and the public's like, well, they're gonna bring in R18. If you're there showing right at the front go that you're doing them together, then it kind of helps with the
Public outcry.
with the public.
The idea of separating them just because it's, you know, the general plan amendment, they come and they haven't had to do all the extensive, dump all the money into a whole plat and everything they have to
But you
do.
don't have to do that with R110. You have to do that with PDs. So I get it in the PD realm, but in the regular like subdivision realm.
R110.
Yeah, I'm just saying the option should be,
It'll be something that has to be discussed. I just following direction I've been given at this point in time, and that's why we separated Bart's. Bart did submit a concept plan with his general plan, just so we could, for reference, so you could see what was proposed, so the council could see what was proposed. Technically, he didn't have to do that, but he did, because it's a straight R1. You know, the difference between an R16 or an R110 versus a PD is night and day.
Yeah.
The process. And the level of detail. So.
Okay.
I have your comments. I understand those and I have them written here. I'll follow up next week with my bosses. So.
Well, and maybe we need to have another, all of us sit down.
Work
together.
meeting, yeah.
Another
It could be a work meeting with the planning commission and the council.
Yep.
I can suggest that as well. We don't know when that will be, but
No, but
probably, yeah,
especially given
Yeah.
all that we've got going on.
yes.
I like what you're saying about the work meeting, because it seems to me like in the past, there's confusion because we think we're a bunch of big shots in here making decisions about stuff. And then we all vote one way and it goes over there and they're telling us to back off.
Back off and go another direction.
Just so we know what the expectation
I
is.
mean, not that, you know.
Not that we think we're a bunch of big shots,
Well,
but we
no,
think we're
it's
doing.
not a matter of being given direction. It's a matter of understanding. direction.
Yeah.
Right, right.
What are we supposed to do?
Well, yeah, you know, because we want to do it right.
Yeah.
We've been tasked with something. We want to make sure what we send back is correct and what we give is correct.
you'll get that's the thing of the general plans too, is that they're not updated that long. So you'll get one council that implements it. And there'll be public outcry that says, well, we didn't like you implementing that. They'll get voted out. You'll get a whole new council that's got elected on the basis of not following the general plan.
Right,
And that's when they tell you not to follow it.
right.
Yeah.
So you get the up and down of the,
Yeah,
Well,
and-
we need to
and let
feel
me-
that temperature from them, right?
we're not to be political.
Yeah, we're not.
We're
supposed to.
appointed, we're not elected. And it concerns me that I'm watching some decisions being made because they're elected. But I could go on about that. I shouldn't.
We have to do is follow rules.
Yep, follow the rules. That's all we have to do is follow the rules.
Yeah.
That, I never had that more realization than last week. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Now we move on to our meeting minutes from March 23rd. Have you, the council had a chance to review them?
It looked good to me.
They were good.
I would like one thing changed on something I said.
Cool.
If that's okay.
That's why we review them.
We're going to have to fact check that, Commissioner Blake.
Oh, I'm trying to remember where it says. Anyway, I talked about that there was some signals planned for that Hamlin Parkway and some other places, and it just says lights. I would like it to say like traffic light instead of lights or traffic signal.
I remember you saying that.
Traffic light or traffic signal, what page? I can go
gotta
ahead
get
and
down
make
to
that
where-
change.
where
if we-
It's
if we
towards
have-
the end.
it's Towards the end of the
No,
discussion
it
for
was-
Clayton Levitt's item.
It was during. Yes, Clinton Levitt's item.
Okay. All right. Well, we can
Me.
look forward and find it.
It was like around,
I'm still not, but I was talking during the public hearing.
page 16, I think.
All right. We'll take a look at that and make a change. You can approve them subject to that being changed.
No, that's not where it was. It wasn't on page 16.
I can find it.
Mess me. Yeah, okay.
I remember his comment.
I think I do too, because I've had the privilege of listening to that recording 4 or 5 times before last night's meeting. So
It doesn't, in the minutes, it says it says lights and
Other
just,
lights.
that's all it says is lights instead of traffic
Yeah.
signals or whatever.
I went through it to prepare for last night, so
I listened
I do
to it more- I
recall
listened to that more than once.
plus the 26 other people who spoke. to the item, so.
I move that we approve the minutes from the March 23rd, 2023 meeting, subject to the change, to change it to traffic signal instead of lights.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion for approval from Logan and a second from Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
And that passes. Any nays I cannot hear, so. We're good there. And with that, I call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. See you in 2 weeks on the 27th.